At 3:17 a.m., Orange County Emergency Management received the automated alert they had been dreading for months. Coastal monitoring sensors detected catastrophic ground displacement along a 2.3-mile stretch of Newport Beach. By sunrise, 12 oceanfront homes had vanished into the Pacific, and Highway 1 was cracked beyond repair. Emergency Coordinator Sarah Chen knew this was not a freak landslide. It was the beginning of a systematic coastal evacuation that would reshape Southern California. Behind closed doors, state officials have been preparing for what they are calling managed retreat, the planned abandonment of California's most valuable coastal real estate. New geological surveys reveal that fault networks extending offshore are creating cascade failure zones where cliffs collapse in sequence, like geological dominoes. The December 2024 Mendocino earthquake initiated this process, but climate change is accelerating it beyond all predictions. Recent atmospheric river storms have turned the timeline from decades to years. Sea level rise, doubled erosion rates, and systematic ground instability now threaten 250,000 residents and $50 billion in coastal infrastructure. Emergency planners are quietly developing evacuation protocols for entire communities that will simply cease to exist as habitable land. But here's the question that keeps emergency managers awake at night. If California cannot protect its coast, despite unlimited resources and cutting-edge technology, what happens to the millions of Americans living on coastlines that are not monitoring the danger? And when climate refugees start fleeing collapsing shores, are we prepared for the largest internal migration in American history? For centuries, California's rugged coastline has been eroding at a steady clip. Cliffs retreat 1 to 2 feet annually on average, with erosion typically peaking during winter storms, then stabilizing in calmer summer months. Major landslides, while dramatic, have historically been isolated, episodic events. The Portuguese Bend disaster of the 1950s and the 1960s claimed 150 homes over decades. Devil's Slide has repeatedly failed, but in predictable seasonal cycles. That all changed on December the 5th, 2024, when a magnitude 7 earthquake ruptured offshore Mendocino County. For the first time, fiber optic sensors captured a fault jumping to super shear velocity, faster than the seismic shear waves themselves. Within weeks, satellite radar began detecting land subsidence patterns up to 400 miles south, revealing a network of undersea faults destabilized by the quake. The 2025 collapse timeline defied all prediction. That November, during a king tide, a Santa Cruz photographer captured cliffs crumbling in real time, leaving beaches unrecognizable overnight. Then the storms hit. Atmospheric rivers battered the coast in December, unleashing over 300 landslides and $30 billion in damage. USGS sensors recorded coordinated failures across 200-mile spans as entire sections of coastlines sagged toward the sea. For the first time in state history, emergency evacuation orders became permanent relocation orders. Dr. Adam Young at Scripps Institution of Oceanography analyzed pre- and post-storm LiDAR maps, discovering 680 miles of coastline retreating at double the historical rate. USGS coastal hazards expert Dr. Patrick Barnard issued the alarming assessment that this managed retreat would displace 250,000 residents and imperil $50 billion in property far sooner than anyone thought possible. Sarah Chen, Orange County's crisis manager, saw the once theoretical become operational reality overnight. Managed retreat is now the mandate. As she puts it, we are witnessing the birth of climate migration on a scale never before attempted in American history. California's coast was born to fall into the sea. For millions of years, the Pacific and North American plates have been grinding past each other, moving 1.5 inches per year on average. This relentless tectonic dance created the 800-mile San Andreas Fault system, a network of fractures obvious on land that also extend beneath the Pacific. These undersea faults have long been hidden hazards. Whenever they lurch, the seafloor buckles, underwater cliffs crumble, and sediment loosened over millennia tumbles into the abyss. The cliffs left behind are inherently unstable, loose piles of sand, gravel and mud that only need a nudge to collapse again. And what a nudge climate change provides. Warmer air holds 4% more moisture for every degree of warming. So as global temperatures rise, atmospheric rivers grow, dumping more water with every storm. Sea levels are rising an inch every 8 years now, and the pace is accelerating. Higher tides undermine cliffs, and they allow storm waves to punch further inland. It is a diabolical combination. Wetter, heavier rainfall saturates and destabilizes cliff sediments. Rising seas scour away the base of bluffs, removing the buttresses that hold them up. Meanwhile, each new fault tremor shakes the cliffs like an eroded Jenga tower. Any one of these factors can trigger a collapse. Together, they are proving catastrophic. This is not the first time California's coast has crumbled catastrophically. Portuguese. Bend, an idyllic stretch of Palos Verdes, lost 130 homes from 1956 to 1961, when the entire peninsula slid seaward. The 1982 to 1983 El Nino winter caused $100 million in damage in today's dollars. More recently, the 1998 storms forced the evacuation of entire neighborhoods in Laguna Niguel, but those events pale in comparison to what is unfolding now. As Dr. Barnard puts it, coastal change, cliff retreat, sea level rise, and extreme storms are converging simultaneously. The 2024 Mendocino quake may have set the stage, but climate change has taken center stage. The geological threat, once measured in inches per year, is now measured in feet per month. Today, 250,000 Californians are waking up to a stark reality. The ground beneath their feet is no longer unstable, and they must move, fast. The first to go are those in the immediate evacuation zones. Orange County alone is poised to lose 75,000 residents along the coast from Newport Beach to Dana Point. Up to 120,000 face displacement along the Los Angeles County coast, from Palos Verdes to Redondo Beach. 55,000 more are at risk in Ventura and Santa Barbara, in seaside enclaves from Malibu to Goleta. But it's not just homes at risk. Highways, power plants, water treatment facilities and military bases are all stranded assets now. Making evacuation plans is one thing. Actually, executing them is a mind-bending logistics challenge. California already faces a housing shortage, 3.2 million units deep. Now, hundreds of thousands more need homes yesterday. Schools must be relocated en masse, commandeering any large building inland. Vast numbers of coastal businesses, and the tourism economy with them, will simply vanish. Emergency services will be both abandoned in retreat zones and utterly overwhelmed everywhere else. Insurance, the foundation of economic resilience, is collapsing right along with the cliffs. With managed retreat, now the new reality, providers are pulling out of not just the coast but entire counties. Freddie Mac has warned of a coming mortgage crisis as collapsing coastal prices ripple inland. Municipal budgets are instantaneously cratering as property taxes from oceanfront neighbourhoods that once made up 40 to 60% of city revenue wash out to sea. Even the most fundamental aspects of civilization are now at risk. Highways, rail lines, ports, all the sinews of supply chains have become hazards themselves. Power plants are being barricaded like castles against the rising tides. Water treatment plants are being invaded by seawater, even as the pipes delivering their fresh water snap beneath the shifting ground. Communication systems are starting to fail, as cell towers and data lines succumb to the coast's collapse. The return to remote work has become permanent, by necessity, not choice, as physical commutes are severed. Fire departments, police stations, and hospitals on the coast are having to triage what to save and what to abandon for good. These are the ingredients of a cascading systemic failure, the likes of which the US has never seen. If California were a foreign nation, this would be a refugee crisis threatening the stability of the state. FEMA is scrambling to rewrite its entire playbook to handle what is effectively a permanent disaster. Military resources are being reallocated on the fly to fill the gap. Yet, as unprecedented as this managed retreat is for California, it may soon become the template for the nation. Some 40% of the US population lives in coastal counties. From the Gulf of Mexico to the eastern seaboard, sea level rise and intensifying storms are already eroding the edges of communities. How many more will be told they have to leave for good? As California goes, so goes the nation. This is the resounding warning from those tracking the unfolding crisis. Dr. Barnard minces no words. This is the first real-time documentation of a systematic coastal collapse. And what happens next in California will be studied the world over. Millions more will be on the move in the coming years, not by choice, but by climate-fueled necessity. Coastal communities will be swamped by housing and infrastructure pressures they have never imagined. Highways never designed for heavy traffic will become lifelines for the displaced. Inland cities, utterly unprepared to be a new coastline, will have to adapt on the fly. California, for all its catastrophe, enjoys an abundance of monitoring tools to track the danger. The USGS Coastal Storm Modeling System provides around-the-clock tracking of erosion hotspots. NASA satellites watch the land subside block by block. State and county emergency managers are coordinating a triage system for which communities to save and which to abandon. But what about the rest of the nation's shores? From Alaska to the Carolinas, other states can only dream of the sensing systems that are giving Californians precious hours to escape collapsing cliffs. How much worse will the crisis become in regions already battered by inequity and underinvestment? There is no outrunning the wider warning signs. In Oregon, signs of the same fault interactions that set off California's crisis are already being detected. The Cascadia subduction zone, long feared as the source of the Northwest's Big One earthquake, is showing ominous patterns of locking with seafloor faults to the south. The unfolding catastrophe is also a glimpse into our shared global future. The same forces dismantling the California coast will be repeated worldwide. No coastline is immune to rising seas. No cliff can resist gravity forever. This is a preview of the complex emergencies that will define the 21st century. As Dr. Young of Scripps warns, California's coast is the test case for how bad climate change impacts can get. How fast can we adapt? How much can we afford to lose? When entire coastlines must be redrawn, who gets to decide which communities survive? There's no easy solace for the hundreds of thousands now picking through the wreckage of their former lives. But in confronting the unimaginable, California is giving the world a glimpse of the choices ahead. Managed retreat is an admission that the seas cannot be held back forever. The task now is to chart a path forward for the displaced and to recognise that the California coast is just the beginning. As emergency managers brace for the long fight ahead, they're left with a haunting question. When will the day come that there's no higher ground left to run to? Subscribe now to Earth Attacks for early warnings on the next front lines of coastal collapse. Is your community prepared for a California-scale retreat? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned for our next investigation. How close is your city to being abandoned to the sea?